IPOs, unicorns, and the pandemic. Another few days, and we will come to the end of this financial year. The past year has been tough, turbulent, very hard. We saw second and third wave of COVID, but it also has been very triumphant. We saw so many unicorns in India for the first time, and so many startups went and did such successful IPOs. If this financial year was a movie, then it had all the elements to be a successful blockbuster. We spoke to leaders across the industry to understand what has this year meant to them. And yes, we just didn't discuss about the business. We asked them about their goals, aspirations, what are they looking forward to in 2022. Storming through everything, these are the riders in the storm. Let's hear from them.
2021 has been a great year for payments as an industry, payments and banking, right? And lot of things moved digital, right? People were coming more internet. People were coming to internet to like to buy a service or product, and that also propelled growth in payments industry in whole. Right? Cashflow also saw a lot of good traction in last year, right? A number of merchants grew more than 95% last year. We are also able to onboard more than 300 employees on Cashflow ever since the onset of pandemic, and all of them joined us remotely, right? Because the volumes have been growing 20% month over month for last 6 to 7 months, right? And we see rebound from a lot of industries which were on a very like a dip state in the entire 2020 period, right? So travel bounced back, right? A lot of things around e-commerce bounced back, and they bounced back in a good way. Services bounced back. We saw a reduction in the entire COD orders, and that also increased the online payment share in the entire e-commerce industry. Plus, a lot of new innovative businesses also cropped up last year. So overall, it was a very good year for us, right? I mean, a company will grow around up to 100% compared to last financial year, and this is what we have been doing for last 3 to 4 financial years. And last year also we stayed same. We are able to manage the same achievement that we did previously, and hopefully by March we'll close this year at a pretty high. Right. So in terms of learning, I think this is a very larger message the entire startup industry. When we start a company, when we stay smaller, right? We interact with each other a lot, right? We since we're in a small office, whenever there's a problem, we go to someone and say, let's just discuss it out and solve it out. But on remote setup, that is pretty hard to do, right? You have to set up a meeting even to discuss something smaller, right? So this is something we adopted a lot, and this is something I also recommend startups to adopt a lot, is the writing culture in the company, right? Things about how to document things, how to make things much easier for new people when they're joining the company so that they can ramp up on the product domain or processes faster. So that is something that taught me a lot, right? I mean, things should always be written and documented so that it becomes easier for us to onboard a new employee in the company and also help anyone to do their work in a much more, timely manner.
As far as WebEngage is concerned, it was a great year, and on multiple counts, on the counts of growth, on the count of us expanding the product. Pretty much on all these accounts, we've done fairly well in that year. In many ways, the year sort of also defined some of our basic character in how we progressed on each of these counts. If you had to ask me one thing that was really changing for us in that year was the change of fortunes. From being a company that almost everybody lost. We were lost in translation, right? In the previous 4 or 5 years, the company was being built in a very bootstrap manner. We were more inwards than outwards, and almost everybody wrote us off. And 2021 was the year when we came back in that sense, because we raised a little bit of capital. However, we never announced our fundraisers. That and the growth trajectory, right? We grew faster than almost all the funded competitors, not only in India but internationally also in that year, which also got us some mind share. So for keeping all of those into sort of into mind, I think it was a great year for us. 2022 brings a great promise also. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, it was a change of fortunes year for WebEngage, as far as our context is concerned.
2021, of course, was a very challenging year. I don't think anything in our life, what we have done before this, could have prepared us for that. But in a sense, it also brought a lot of positives. So for us specifically in telecom sector, it almost felt as if life has gone back to 15 years when people actually used to welcome telecom services and they used to value it. Suddenly, it became a very integral part of businesses and consumers, and we were not being remembered just for when things go down, but we were actually being remembered for when things were working. So it was a great feeling to have as a telco. There are a lot of other shifts which worked to our advantage. The shift towards digital was absolutely staggering. I mean, what would have in a normal life cycle would have taken 3 to 5 years happened over 2 to 3 quarters. For Airtel as well. So we as a company, fortunately, we had started this journey almost 3 years back, so we were much better prepared. But we accelerated it very rapidly. So adoption of digital life cycle in the consumer side, adoption of digital technologies on the B2B side. We launched some very critical services, very well received in the market. We launched our CPaaS platform called IQ. We launched our cloud services. We launched our secure services. So we created a very good portfolio of beyond telecom services which enable digital life for customers, and really participated very strongly with our customers as they move towards the digital journey. From the global business point of view, again, the pandemic really shifted our relationship with the global OTT players. For them, India has become heart and center of their growth, with a very large base of digitally connected population, be it for Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon. All of them see India as a big market for now and future. And we are now playing part as a very strategic partner for them to help them build the infrastructure to India, as well as from India to the rest of the world, including Africa. So we are working with them on the network side. We are working with them on very large scale data center projects, as well as some very deep partnerships for long-term investments around fiber. So a lot of progress on that side as well. We saw some with some of our very strategic partners. But I think the learning for me, I mean, as a leader, is apart from all of this, the heart and center of what we do is about people. And we very acutely realize that how do you manage people? How do you make sure that they feel secure, they feel comforted in places they are, they feel that they have a ring of protection around them, makes a big difference. So our entire focus during pandemic, at least to begin with, was to make sure each and every team member feel that their health and security comes first. We are there to help them out, be it in terms of financially through insurance, be it in terms of making access towards hospitals, oxygen, all kind of possible, but more importantly, just keeping in touch with each other. So I think that has been a big learning for me. And of course, same follows with customer. So I think the success we saw over last 3 to 4 quarters was largely because we stood by our customers. Right from the day one when we saw things getting into lockdown, we reached out to all our customers, understood their challenges, how we can support them, be it in terms of connectivity, be it in terms of restructuring some of our contracts, whichever way. And I think that has deepened our relationship to a point which one would have normally not imagined in a financial transaction or a commercial transaction. Now they see us as a very valued partner. So I think all in all, obviously no one will wish this to happen. No one will want this to happen, but we in general has come out much better than what we started with.
So I think 2021 was for us, it was a difficult year from the, not from the business point of view, but from a personal point of view. But while we were all going through the pandemic, but it has taught quite a good lesson to us. And from the business point of view, it has been a great year for us because the business we are in are happening in the in agriculture. Everything happens remotely, in the far-flung areas. And we as a business were B2B in nature. Those guys need more control and visibility of all the operations. And that gave a push to our, our business. And we saw a lot of traction during pandemic, where the questions were, how do we monitor our farms or farm assets to get a better, more visibility on our production side. All right. And that was one of the push we saw. And when we say remote, it has got a lot of component of deep tech, where you really need not be on the farm to get all the intelligence, what is happening on every piece of farm where you are interested in, right? So we can run the deep learning models very remotely, combining the satellite images, weather data, and all the models which has been trained over a period of time on globally. So we were able to very quickly turn around those insight and intelligence to our customer when they were looking for it, right? So it accelerated the pace of our positioning our AI product. That was a very good thing happened, and we are growing. I think this year we'll close with 4x growth in our ARR as well. So from the business point of view, it was good. It has also taught one thing, that you really don't need to travel to close a large deal. So earlier the thought process was, or conviction was, if you are into enterprise business, you have to be traveling, you have to meet your customers, spend time with them, and then probably you'll be able to land a larger deal, right? So it can't be sign up online, right? So, but that myth was this myth was well addressed, because during the pandemic, neither our customers were traveling, neither they wanted us in their meeting, or for that matter, anybody in their office, to increase the risk. And we were able to perform better than the years when we were traveling and spending too much on acquiring the customer. So with a much lesser cost, and we invested in remote technology to reach out to our customers, either on the Zoom or other video conferencing technology. And we were able to build the same conviction, same relationship, and able to close the deals, right? So our cost of acquiring a customer has come down, because you are able to cut down a lot on the traveling, which we were doing internationally. So we build the product for India, from India for the globe, and we are now servicing around 52 countries. We started with India, we went to Southeast Asia, Europe, LATAM, US, and Africa, but we don't have to really travel to close the deals. So that's one thing we have learned. So not a lot of travel is required, though you will need sales and marketing in those market, but you can really cut down on your cost of travel, which also aid to your carbon footprint, right? So if you are a sustainable business, you really want to contribute positively to the carbon footprint. And this is one way to break down the carbon footprint as well. And the customer also appreciate that, right? So these are the two learning we had, that your customer is going to transform their business digitally, because the pandemic has taught, because you can't be always in the office, or and you can't be always traveling, and cut down their bills as well, right? So the remote monitoring technology using AI and the deep learning which we provide to our customers was one of the solution which got got accelerated during this pandemic.
So I think 2021 was a revolution in many ways. We probably undervalued human-to-human connect for a long time, and its contribution to making matrix organizations work. So while you can get a lot done virtually, even when you are away from a common workplace, people still yearn for human connection, way more than we thought they do. And without that connect, we must put conscious effort into building relationships which make the organization work. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I think 2021 was a challenging year for everyone with pandemic set, and it was a tough year for the entire country. There's no way to hide this fact. There were many people lost their dear ones in the wave. But at the same time, that was the year where we have shown resilience together as a country. We came together, not only as a startup, but everyone backed each other, and we stood strong for the entire 2021 year. And 2022 looks brighter than ever with how our economy is shaping up, the rebound, how startups are also playing a very important role in terms of democratizing the entire wealth creation as a process. So I think 2021 was a year where we, at least for us, we've learned that the art of staying resilient, the art of fighting a lot of obstacles that were thrown at you, and also the art of survival sometimes. But there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Is where this phrase had its the most importance or significance in 2021.
Okay, let's talk about 2021. Although I want to forget about 2021 in many ways and start to look ahead. But 2021 was a mixed bag. As you rightly pointed out, it's been travel and tourism industry probably, and maybe along with that, entertainment industry has also been very badly hit as well. And it's not 1 year; it's been now approximately 2 years, right? And if I look back, when pandemic started, and we did think that it's not going to be a 1 year phenomena, it's going to be at least a 2 year phenomena, if not more. And I think that's proving it to be true. But specific to 2021, I think if I see the positive side of it, it was better than 2020. Specific to our industry, because yes, we had second wave in 2021 first, but that was the longest wave. A lot of fear, lockdown, etc., was far more disruptive in 2020 than 2021. If I look at specific performance also, with respect to our group, 3 quarters out of 4 quarters were decent. Not necessarily, at the same levels as pre-pandemic, but they were decent. I mean, so there was hope, there was recovery happening, the growth happening, and so on and so forth. But then now, when we talk about 2022, we should talk about it. The start is not necessarily very promising, but we'll see how it goes. But 2021, I think, it was a mixed bag, but clearly better than, I would say, 2020. And one thing that you have learned, not necessarily last year, but even in 2020, I would say has to be test of patience and resilience for the entire industry. And even if you were, like 7 or 8 out of 10 on patience, you needed to be 10 on 10. So that was really the demand for the year that, was coming in front of us. And that's what you needed to do. You didn't really have a choice. You needed to be patient. You needed to be positive. You needed to be optimistic that this will also go away, because it's not that the down cycles don't go away. They do go away. But at the same time, that you had to just step back and look at what could be the opportunities that even in this sort of down cycle, and it always happens, that they'll throw back on you, and are you able to sort of grab that or not? So I guess that was really our focus. Weathering the storm, helping the industry, coming together, and then also continue to keep seeing the opportunities. Any new opportunities that is throwing back on us, and work on it or invest behind it. So that was sort of 2021 in nutshell, if you will. I guess, it was a huge amount of test of patience for all of us.
I think 2021 was among the most challenging managerial and leadership journeys that any of us have had. And I would not like to say I'm any exception to it. We've all been tested professionally. We've been tested personally. We've been tested as leaders. We've been tested as human beings. So you asked for one word, but let me give you 2. I think 2 words that come to mind. One is resilience, that the humankind is far more resilient than what we think they are. And number 2 is just empathy about, whether it's your colleagues, whether it's your, supervisors, whether it's your family. I all think the year taught us to be a little kinder to each other, put yourselves in the other person's shoes, experience life and its challenges from their vantage. and just be a little more empathetic than what we otherwise would have been?
I think it's been every year that we have been going through in the last 2 years has, once I have decided that we have seen everything, the next year throws in some new challenges. So I think one thing I have agreed on, or I mentally prepared myself, or my team and everybody around me are preparing themselves to, is we have to expect the unexpected, right? So, but having said that, if I look back at 2021, which is, it has actually reinforced my trust in people. It has reinforced my trust in the resiliency of people and their ability to adapt. We have been surprising ourselves positively, consistently, again and again. So I think generally some of the best positive things happen around a negative event. Even though we can get focused on negative things, the power of the people, the ability for people to come together, the ability for the people to support each other. And even in a capitalistic driven society, like I'm in a business, I'm in a startup, even though we are capitalistically driven, a crisis also brings in the ability to keep that same focus without just it being money and outcomes, but actually having a people oriented approach to it. So I think there is a lot more positive that has come out of this crisis than negatives, even though there are a lot of negative events and this non-stop narrative of COVID positives or the first wave, second wave, and third wave that is going on. If we keep that aside and look at what is happening around us and look at how people have adapted themselves, it's one of the most refreshingly positive things that has come out to me as a leader, as a human being in 2021. And that is very, very positively reinforcing for me.
2021, I think the best description that comes to mind is that it was a very challenging year and across dimensions, both personal and professional. Professionally, as we are aware, like in 2020, physical workflows ground to a halt, supply chains were disrupted, and all of us were consigned to our homes, right? So, and unless companies adopted digital, across their value chain, they were like doomed to fail, right? And that really happened. So within that context, I think it became important for companies like us. When I say companies like us, I'm referring to companies which are operating in the technology space. The onus or responsibility fell on us to create products and services which, when utilized by our customers, would help them adopt digital and continue with their business, as usual. So I'd like to think that there was this tremendous test before us, organizations in general, but before technology companies like us. And I would also like to think that we did pass that test with flying colors. But when you ask me about the learnings from 2021, I would rather focus on the personal side of it. And when I say personal, I mean, I don't necessarily mean personal to me, but what I'm trying to say is that, yes, as organizations, we learned quite a bit in how to survive in the new paradigm, but it is perhaps as individuals that we learned the most. We came face to face with our worst fears. We had the courage to confront these fears. We surprised ourselves with our ability to innovate, to improvise, to adapt, to collaborate. And against all odds, we eventually won. So I think while it is fair to say that 2021 was a year where we saw technology taking a bigger and bigger role in our lives, but it was equally in discovering or rediscovering human values of empathy, of kinship, of collaboration, how people, now distributed across locations came together, to feel each other's issues, problems, and combine together to deliver value for our customers. So for me, that was perhaps the biggest learning, that while we say technology is what will lead us to progress and prosperity, equally it is the human values of collaboration, kinship, and empathy that are really, really important for progress of businesses and mankind in general.
See, 2022, we have a slightly slow start because of this entire Omicron wave, and also I think a lot of flu is going around. But I think this will, as per the data, I think this should end faster than the last, phase 2, and things are not as low as how they were like in the last time, right? I mean, people are still holding up; they're not panicking a lot. right, which is still keeping a lot of services alive, not in a similar way, but like travel has again gotten a small hit. Right, few of the services are being hit, right? I mean, few things which are discretionary, things are in luxury item, right? So people are not buying because that's not the right sentiment in the market to buy certain things. But I believe by end of Feb or early March, things can start going back to normal, and this will again bounce back, right? So we are very hopeful. I think even from the Kashmir side, we are releasing a bunch of new products in this year. So we are going to release products on cross-border. We're going to release product on banking as a service, which can give embedded banking experience. We're also releasing product for the offline payments, which are calling EPOs, right? So this year will be very exciting for us, both from the market perspective, both from the product perspective, and both from the markets we're going to enter. So last year we made an investment in Dubai-based payments company. Right, this year we also expect to see a lot of growth. We also expect to work with more number of international merchants on the Kashmir platform, and that's how we'll learn and be much more prepared for next financial year.
Well, we'll do more of what we're doing. If I had to summarize it, it's going to be a lot of work on some of our go-to-market coming to life. The product has gone through a transition last year. There's some final chops here and there, but that should happen this year. And I would want to believe that we'll continue to grow more aggressively from how we had in the last year. And this will define, the year is going to define our character even more. People will see us in a very different light. We are in a crowded space, right? And the entire effort within the company has always been about how do you stay different, how do you look different, how do you do things differently, right? Not only just product, but everything around the org as well. And this year we'll do more of all of that. I'm personally very excited about what we can. 2021 was was a year for building all these building blocks, putting them in place. This year is reaping all the benefits. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. So yeah, very excited.
So, very frankly, I mean, Omicron and what has happened over the last 10 days, to begin with, is a big sense of deja vu. And it's almost feel as if you've gone back to where you were a year back, in all sense around you. But at the same time, I think all of us are much better prepared. All of us are better prepared in our personal lives on how to deal with it, as well as in our professional lives on how to deal with it. So to that extent, there is less panic, there's a less sense of desperation around it. The other comforting fact is that unlike the second round of COVID, where really there was a big stress on the health infrastructure, this time at least we don't see that, at touchwood till now. Hopefully it stays that way. And that to me is a big difference, because if we don't end up having quite a few of us having to access the health infrastructure, we just go through a few days of bad health and then come out of it, I think we can live through it. I think we are mentally now stronger and tougher to be able to live through that. So I'm quite hopeful that this would be a much easier cycle for us to go through, and hopefully the last one. From a point of view of business, the real trajectory shift has already happened in terms of what way we are running our business, and our customers are looking at their own business. So that continues to move forward. Our execution is sharper. Our focus remains on our valued customers. So we continue to focus on acquiring really high quality customers. We continue to focus on making sure that we serve them really well. We exceed their expectation. We continue to focus on making sure that our product portfolio as well as our engagement models are all digital. So that focus remains. And of course, we continue to focus, be with them in whatever challenges they may face in this round. So I think those things are very much ingrained, and we are very well prepared. So I'm quite hopeful that this would be a short round. We'll not see any major economic impact, and all our plans and strategies will continue as they have been thought of.
Yeah, so I think the new year has came up with a bang for the business. So we are growing very fast in international market, and on the business front, we are investing a lot on the in all the fronts in the business, right from the making investment in the deep tech technology. So we have got Grok AI Lab, with more than 30 researchers and platform engineers who are working to accelerate the pace of innovation, which we want to present to our customers and the growers to improve their per acre value, right? So that's the investments we are doubling down. We are we just created our subsidiary in Europe, where where one of our co-founder is going to move, Kunal, to look at the Europe market. So we have an office in Amsterdam. So we are doubling down on the international expansion and also our presence in those countries. So so we recently created our entity in subsidiary in Singapore as well, and we are creating a subsidiary in US. So we will be setting our foot in US as well. We already have customers. Now we want to double down on that as Americas as a strategy. So that's one of the key things we are looking out in 2022 to accelerate the pace of growth in those markets with the B2B and the enterprise client. And then we have a sales and marketing office in Africa and LATAM, where we are also doubling down. So these are some of the investment dimension, I'll say, where we are doubling down. Tech is going to play a major role for us. So we are dealing with the terabytes of data and compute. And a lot of focus is on build a hyperscale platform which performs at the scale, right? So you are now building a capability to compute a country like India or Nigeria or US, which we have been delivering throughout the year 2021 for our customers. Now it's time to see how you can compute the scale of a planet. And for that, you need best of the engineering and best of the platform to be performing optimally. So which also take care of your cost of compute, right? So those are the front, infrastructure front, people front, product front, and the Crop in AI lab front, we are making investment and doubling down. On the personal growth, I think I'm very happy with the way the AgTech space is shaping up and the kind of contribution it's able to make in the life of growers or industry itself, right? I personally want to, and it's my pet projects as well, that how should we accelerate the pace of capital flow in the rural India, right? So none of the banks or fintechs wants to lend to a person in the rural India because they don't understand the risk, because his 50% income is going to come from agriculture. And how can technology play a role that you can accelerate the underwriting or the risk coverage for the BFSI segment, right? And we have got a very, very good traction. And I want to see 2022 as a great year for us to, look at embedded finance or helping these banks and the fintech companies or these companies to use technology to underwrite, even a sachet loan to a person in a rural India, right, or a farmer. So that's one of the things which I want to see personally grow, from as one of my pet projects. We are already delivering these solutions in Africa, in Colombia, with working with some of the banks. Now we are going to double down on that as well. On the personal front, you are always growing, you are always learning. I'm interfacing with the industry leaders. We have a very, very sound board from AI front. Aya is independent director who is leading the AI globally for Novartis. So healthcare and food or AgTech is very, very close, right? So what you eat reflects in your health as well. And we brought her in to see how we can sharpen our approach and accuracies in what we are building on the deep tech side. And I'm learning a lot. So from being an engineer, now I'm adding a lot of knowledge on how the knowledge graph and AI plays going to play a role in the industry to transform this, right? A sector like agriculture. At the same time, engaging with the various other advisors who are helping me as a person to grow as the business is growing, right? So it's always you're always learning and always on a spree of learning something new and helping your business to grow. So so those are some of my personal aspiration also to grow as a leader. From the business point of view, I think AgTech is going to deliver a unicorn in a couple of years, and we are very much getting towards it from the growth point of view. And we are we are, one of our we are building a world largest agtech enterprise sitting at Bangalore with a vision of making every farm traceable, predictable, and sustainable, and going to help the country's enterprise growers to use technology and innovation to improve their per acre value in their business, right? So that's our main focus, and I think my job as a CEO is to translate this vision to each and every person in the company so that they are all aligned and we all on a war footing to achieve this vision and mission for the company.
I think I expect the customer behaviors which have taken root over the past 2 years to really spawn a lot more innovation. So the true power of the internet really will get revealed not only in 2022, but in the next few years. 2022 is hence a year of building for the new. We must build new people capabilities, build new partnerships, and build digital infrastructure for the org. Let me just record that one again. I think I fumbled a bit.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. You can re-record. We are anyways pre-recording it.
Okay. So on this one, I expect that customer behaviors which have taken root over the past 2 years will spawn a lot more innovation. So the true power of the internet will really get revealed not only in 2022, but in the next few years. 2022 is hence a year of building for the new. New people capabilities, new partnerships, the digital infrastructure which is needed for the org all need to be built this year.
I think to start off, what our honorable PM has dedicated one day as a National Startup Day, I think that talks about how startups would be playing a very key important role in democratizing wealth creation process, and also playing its important role in taking the economy upwards and onwards. So by this, and it happened at the start of the year, so it's energizing for most of entrepreneurs like us, and also people who are in college and dreaming to be an entrepreneur, or people who are in office and trying to become an entrepreneur, right? So I think it's a huge mandate and opportunity for us to come together and create this large-scale opportunities, not only for an entrepreneur themselves, but for the entire country as a whole. So yeah, I think that's how we're looking forward to the year 2022.
No, I actually, like I said, I mean, looking forward into 2022, as we were sitting in December, except the last week of December, we were very sort of happy getting into 2022, if you will, except when it hit us again, right out of the blue. And this one came from, again, maybe nowhere, because, we survived and we escaped the post-Diwali, and, everybody was sort of had that apprehension that, post-festivities, we will have a wave and all that. It didn't happen. Maybe it happened, but it did come back, unfortunately, with the new variant and the rest of it, end of December, right? So getting into the new year wasn't great, wasn't that promising. Obviously, was the moods were down, the sentiments were down and all. But again, if I compare it with what was happening in 2021, or for that matter in 2020, you will see that the impact, first of all, which is the most important thing in my mind, from a health perspective, the impact of this relatively is lower. It is less severe on health. Clearly, there's no question about it. It's obviously very, very contagious, as we all know, and therefore the headline numbers are going to be, scary. But the hospitalization rate, the recovery days, from 14 days to maybe down to 7 days, maybe in some cases 5 days, lot more asymptomatic cases, etc., gives me an impression. And if you look at the rest of the world also, even South Africa, Africa, where it started from, you look at US, UK, the numbers have gone through the roof. And how are they sort of looking at it, tackling this variant? It gives me an impression that, one, it'll stay milder, which is good news. to the impact, it may not last that long as the second or the first wave was. So effectively, then we might have disruption coming in from this variant, maybe for a couple of months. And come March, we will, probably start to sort of bounce back again. And even in January, February, the travel is continuing. So it's not that the travel is completely shut. Clearly not, because people are traveling different states. If you really see, I mean, we look at every state, every city data, people are traveling, and yeah, it might be much more skewed towards essential travel than leisure travel. But when it comes back, I'm sure leisure is going to come back. I think there's one more thing that we are very sort of optimistic about it, and also believe that that's likely to happen, based on what we saw as the industry or the consumer sentiment was bouncing back post wave 1 and post wave 2, is that this time when it comes back, it is going to come back even more serious amount of vengeance. So there was pent up that we saw. It's going to be a lot more, because it's just testing patience to the hilt for everyone, and people really want to get out of it. And some of that behavior right now, already when you see out there, is sort of showing and saying that it is milder, and therefore, I mean, I definitely don't wish that they take it too casually right now, but the sentiment is visible. So so when it comes back, it's going to come back with a bang. And therefore, our vision is very, very positive and optimistic, even if we are sort of in the middle of this Omicron wave. And we are looking from a growth perspective. I mean, the focus is going to be largely in this year growth. Given that there is down cycle for 2 years, there's going to be massive focus on growth. And therefore, the vision is going to be, maybe we'll just double the performance, what we would have achieved in 2021 or more. Let's see how it goes, but it's good to start still on a positive note for 2022.
Let me talk about 2022 from a payments perspective, because I come from the, from the zone of payments. So what happened during COVID-19, starting from 2020 and 2021? 2-3 things happened, right? One, culturally, customers were scared to pay by cash because they wanted contactless mechanisms of payment. And therefore, customers started tapping to pay, customers started using e-commerce, and even offline merchant establishments, brick and mortar establishments started having digital avatars and offering online capability. You'd have seen it all across the country. Even from your neighborhood grocer to everybody started offering digital options, right? And so therefore, we had to gear ourselves to give safe, secure, convenient digital optionality, payment optionality to both the offline, hybrid, and O2O, which is online to offline sort of merchants, while propagating contactless payments, while propagating e-commerce payments. I would say the journey of 3-4 years has got actually compressed into a tight 12 to 18-month time frame, because the secular trend of digital payments across the pandemic has sort of been witnessed in 2021. And 2022 is no different. And so we think that trend will continue. So we're focusing on user experience, we're focusing on affordability, and most importantly, we're focusing on consumer safety and security. And so those will be the themes for 2022 as well.
So just like I said, reflecting back, I was pleasantly surprised with the resiliency and the ability for people to step up, adapt themselves to new behaviors. Like a classic example is the corner store, a Kirana wala store who has never even thought of digitization, suddenly is forced to embrace digitization, right? Forced to embrace digitization, and they are doing it. I think in the long run, I think it's a force multiplier in terms of digital payments, digital economy, embracing digitization across the masses, because of the fundamental foundation of people being able to adapt and be resilient. That is a positive that has come out of 2021, and it is going to stay whether this crisis persists or does not persist. Of course, on a lighter note, I would be saying that in 2022, if I have to make a very brave prediction, and in fact, not a brave prediction, but a very easy prediction, our knowledge of Greek letters will certainly improve. I think I did not know about Omicron before this, but now whatever is the next Greek letter or whatever, there is going to be a few more Greek letters and alphabets that we'll come to know of. But having said that,
that's going to be part of life. And 2021 has proven to us that while those challenges exist, our ability to adapt to those challenges and deal with it in a better manner is going to keep getting better in 2022. Now, some of the key things I would predict from a business standpoint, especially the nature of business I am in, is digitization is going to be here. It's going to be here. I mean, it has been adopted forcibly by many businesses, but it is going to be here to stay. Today, people are adopting it for the very survival, but tomorrow it will become a day-to-day habit and is probably be the only way of doing business, right? So, and for a type of business that we are in, it's actually very good because central to digitization is application, central to applications is security, and that is the business we are in. So I think for me as a business and a startup in the cybersecurity space, 2022 and beyond is very exciting for me because it's not just about getting market share and leadership on an existing market, but in the market itself is growing in terms of the number of application and digitization initiatives. For me, the vision for 2022 for my business is taking a leadership position on this growing market, as opposed to is going to be a better game changer for us than to fight for leadership position in existing market. So a lot of positive things, and fundamentally the ability for people to adapt and be resilient is what gives me a lot more hope for 2022 and beyond as well.
See, if I look at it in a general sense, I think the themes that are likely to play out in 2022 will mirror what happened in 2021, where in the professional sort of sphere, companies will continue to accelerate their digital transformation. And digital transformation or adoption will become even more pervasive. When I say pervasive, it is across two dimensions. Digital adoption will become pervasive in industries which are traditionally laggards. When you look around, you see that there are certain industries which are leading as far as digital transformation is concerned. Financial services comes to mind immediately. We will find that companies which were hitherto sort of not exposed to the power of digital will adopt it. So that's one dimension that we will see. The other dimension is that digital adoption will become pervasive across the value cycle. So typically, as you've seen over the last 3-4 years, while COVID has accelerated it, we've seen companies going through their respective journeys of digital transformation. And typically they would choose the back end to sort of first automate and adopt digital technology so as to be more productive, more efficient. Whereas the higher benefits of digital are when you change the front end, where you interface with the customer and all. So we will see that the front end will rapidly start getting transformed as well. So those are by and large the themes that you will see playing out. From a vision point of view, again, sort of addressing the question in a general sense, whether it is companies like us or any enterprise, the vision of a company is to simplify the journey of its customers, right? Yes, it is to earn money, to be profitable, to be innovative and all of that. But the core of what every company tries to do is to simplify the journey of its customer. The journey starts at a point where the company becomes aware of the needs of its customers. Those needs could be latent, they could be explicit, and from then on, the journey of the customer needs to be frictionless and fluid and intuitive and all of that, right? So that being the overarching theme, we will see adoption of tools, platforms, technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, machine learning, IoT, cloud, but all serving this overall strategy or overall vision of simplifying the customer journey. It'll be the same for our customers. It'll be the same for us. For us, it will be to create products and services that help make this customer sort of life cycle journey easy, for our customers. So by and large, the vision will not change across enterprises.
See, payments, having said payments is a very resilient segment, right? Compared to any business segment out there. Right? So we can always have a dip in certain areas, but since we work with so many industries, right, something would always be up. Right? So hyperlocal would go up if offline retail is not working. And if you look at the products, they are, they touch a lot of markets that we work in, right? We work with education, government, right? E-commerce is there, travel is there, lending is there, insurance is there, right? So even though, again, I hope things, work out well, But in any case, things like insurance, lending will be always on the rise. Education is like evergreen segment. Right? From business perspective, I mean, there would be certain segment which may see a dip, but obviously there is some other segment who will, give the pull to the business. So that way, I mean, we are in a very lucky situation, right? I mean, being in a payments company, fortunately, which a lot of sectors unfortunately don't enjoy. But yeah, that's the part of the business.
It's terrible that this does not go away at all, right? We've been at this for more than 2 years now, and the threat still continues to loom on our heads. Um, well, see, it's something that all of us have learned to live with. We know how to deal with this. The company, we've stayed work from home ever since, right? So I think March March 18, 17th or 18th March of 20 is when we announced our remote work for the whole team across all locations. And we've continued to be in that mode. In fact, we've extended it till 31st of March this year as well, right? So it'll be full 2 years of remote work. For a company that hasn't done remote work in the past, we've been around for 10 years and never in our life cycle we've done remote work. So yeah, for 2 years it's been a great amount of learnings as to how this really works, right? From moments of anxiety when we went into this mode very early on till date, pretty much all teams, they've figured out their rhythm, they've figured out how they cope with this, how they work with this. Now of course there are, granted, pros and cons of anything, including remote work, which, as I said, right, as a company, as a team, you learn and you improvise. The threat is there, of course it's there and it's real. We all can speculate for how long it's going to be there, what will happen, etc. But what we know the best is, we have gone through very terrible moments in the first and the second wave, and we stood our ground. We've got some setbacks. In fact, there was a period of time when half the team was suffering from COVID, right, either directly or indirectly, and we managed through all of that. We figured our way around. I'm sure, no matter how this threat looks like, how bad it looks like, we'll still manage to find our way around this. As far as business is concerned, I don't see any threat whatsoever. Because I've seen the worst part of first and second waves. And, given how we're seeing the third wave in some of the other parts of the world, this doesn't seem as threatening as far as business is concerned. Will be, of course, you have to tread on caution nonetheless. But it's the team that I'm more concerned about. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to cruise through this as well as we've done in the last two occasions. So yes, worried, but no panic button pressing yet.
So, very frankly, I mean, Omicron and what has happened over the last 10 days, to begin with, is a big sense of deja vu. And it's almost feel as if you've gone back to where you were a year back, in all sense around you. But at the same time, I think all of us are much, much better prepared. All of us are better prepared in our personal lives on how to deal with it, as well as in our professional lives on how to deal with it. So to that extent, there's less panic, there's a less sense of desperation around it. The other comforting fact is that unlike the second round of COVID, where really there was a big stress on the health infrastructure, this time at least we don't see that, at touch wood till now. Hopefully it stays that way. And that to me is a big difference, because if we don't end up having quite a few of us having to access the health infrastructure, we just go through a few days of bad health and then come out of it, I think we can live through it. I think we are mentally now stronger and tougher to be able to live through that. So I'm quite hopeful that this would be a much easier cycle for us to go through, and hopefully the last one. From a point of view of business, the real trajectory shift has already happened in terms of what way we are where we are running our business, and our customers are looking at their own business. So that continues to move forward. Our execution is sharper. Our focus remains on our valued customers. So we continue to focus on acquiring really high quality customers. We continue to focus on making sure that we serve them really well. We exceed their expectation. We continue to focus on making sure that our product portfolio as well as our engagement models are all digital. So that focus remains. And of course, we continue to focus, be with them in whatever challenges they may face in this round. So I think those things are very much ingrained, and we are very well prepared. So I'm quite hopeful that this would be a short round. We'll not see any major economic impact, and all our plans and strategies will continue as they have been thought of.
So I think one thing the pandemic has, taught all of us how to deal with it, right? So when it started, it was very difficult to understand 6 feet distance or having a mask always. And I think we have learned on the way that it's important to follow certain guidelines to see, we don't get impacted or family don't get impacted, but at the same time, business has to run. And as you rightly said, not all businesses are, has positively got impacted. So there are businesses where you have to meet people, you have to go in the field, but I personally believe that there's always a scope of innovation in any business you are in, whether it's a factory floor or it's more of a human touch business or a digital transformation business, right? So all the businesses have learned to cope up with Omnicom. The good part which I'm hearing is the impact of Omnicom is not so it's not so adversely impacting the health of the people, right? So it's more like a flu and the fever, which is getting over 2 to 3 days. So I'm hoping that the scenario remains in the coming future. We are expecting a surge in a couple of months, but hopefully it will not be as so bad as what we saw last year, right? For the entrepreneurs, I think they need to look within their business and find the avenues to cope up with this. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who are into procurement and marketplaces where and Swiggy could be a good example, right? So they have done a lot of Swiggy or the Ubers of the world. They have innovated a lot. They are the people who have to be in public. They are into transport business. Swiggy has to deliver Swiggy and other startups in the food space has to deliver food to your home, but they have taken up extra precautions in their business model that the customer is insured, that the guy who is coming to deliver is okay, he's doubly certified and still they are into business, right? So I personally believe that entrepreneurs should look into how to innovate, how to make their customer comfortable, that it doesn't impact, Omnicom doesn't impact their business process, and be agile, be quick in turning around the process which need adjustment towards this Omnicom or post-COVID era. And I think we all will navigate together.
I think it does delay a return to office for us and for a lot many organizations. Hence, also delays some of the related changes we expected to happen in the hybrid ways of working. See, as categories, closer home, PC and print continue to be essential, pandemic or no pandemic. But what we might need to do is a lot more of demand shaping and less of demand generation for some more time. I think for growing businesses, it's really essential that they stay agile and therefore not take big positions at this time, right? So it might help if you are agile in terms of being able to pivot your marketing spends, being able to pivot towards innovations which might come in the market, and obviously, again, because the situation is unpredictable, keep a long line of lease for a kind of a long leash for your business, right? In terms of being able to fund your business for longer, having kind of safety capital which you can deploy over time and so on.
Yeah, I think one of the key advantages of being a technology startup is that you always are able to find and figure out solutions in real-time basis, right? So that's how we define being resilient at all points of time. I think now not only about Trell, but most of the startups or most of the organizations have made a contingency plan, or not contingency, but a primary plan. Like how would a COVID or a pandemic first world shouldn't disrupt opportunities for wealth creation. So similar is what we are at Trell. We have very strong plans. We are a digital first, building a digital first community. So it allows people to interact from wherever they are on a small mobile screen, be there, express their opinions, discover products, buy products, or also influence people to make purchases and also earn through them. So I think for us, we've set up a base that is absolutely, could say, pandemic proof, because being digital first allows us, and that's where we're focused upon.
You have to tweak certain things for sure. I mean, that goes without saying. So you can't just say that, it'll be a steady state and it's a smooth run, because that's not the case, right? I mean, so you can't sort of kid yourself and say, listen, this is steady state and therefore just keep going the way maybe we were going pre-pandemic, or the strategies are going to be like that, or just very smooth ride, right? So that's not going to be the case. It's clearly, it has started with some disruption. The disruption relatively is lower, so you end up making some tweaks. But is it going to be a threat? Frankly, no, because of two reasons. One, that there has been tremendous amount of learning for the past 2 years, first of all, and whatever corrections, tweaks, foundational stuff that we needed to do, making, for instance, adding more resources on your balance sheet, for instance, all of that has been done already. So it's a question of now just making small tweaks here and there, and that too, month specific, quarter specific, that you would end up doing. But from even post sort of wave, midterm, long term, the strategy remains the same. The focus remains the same. Strategy remains the same. The opportunity is huge. There's no question about it. And therefore, we are staying on course. We are staying on course. And, I'm not sure that this is, we are at least thinking this as a big threat. But, it also is a function of, how prolonged this one is. And will we have another one, coming up or not? Who the hell knows? But we'll see how it goes. But my bigger point here is that there has been enough learning coming out of those 2 years, more and more, right? I mean, we had seen some crises even in the past prior to this pandemic, but this one obviously was huge and big. And therefore, from that point of view, some more learnings. And, and we've made investments in the new areas, new opportunities, etc. as well. And therefore, we are just going to stay course and, make minor tweaks here and there, but stay course.
I think a lot of ways, right? But I think the good news, if there was a good news of 2020 and 2021, we have to clutch at straws and see the silver lining in the clouds. I think the good news is it prepares a lot of us for adversity. So what would have otherwise seemed challenging now says, okay, we've seen 2021, so 2022 does not seem that challenging, right? But let me tell you, 2-3 things have changed, and let me try and articulate that. Number one, ways of working. Hybrid working has become a reality, right? I don't think, at least from a visa perspective, that people are going to work from Monday to Saturday or Monday to Friday anymore, 5 days a week in office. Of course, we need to come to office for building culture, for training, for interacting with your colleagues, for brainstorming, but there'll be deep work and individual contributor work we can do at home as well. And so I think work is going to move to a hybrid model. And in my opinion, that's an irreversible journey. The days of 9 to 5 and sort of 6 days a week are completely gone, right? And that means profound implications in terms of who's your workforce. How do women and young mothers and, come back to the workforce? How do you create a inclusive workforce and a diverse workforce? Where when people are not meeting each other, right? How do you do mentorship and how do you do career progression? And these are all issues and aspects which we need to grapple with. And on the business front, we need to be agile because, having 3-year business plans is great, but we need to be able to swiftly pivot and sort of change your business paradigm depending on what the situation and context is. So a lot of agility on the business front and a lot of remodeling on the workforce and people management front. I would say those are the significant themes of 2022.
Specific to our business, I see it as a very strong tailwind for us to accelerate faster. Because what has happened because of the unfolding of events in the last couple of years is work from home is now going to become a norm and not an exception. Work in office is going to be the exception and work from home is going to be the default. Our entire concept of workplace, as opposed to instead of me having an office in HSR and having all my team members in Bangalore come there, I might be thinking about having multiple satellite offices, one in Banashankari, one in HSR, one somewhere else, and some common places where if needed, when time permits and situation permits, we can get together as well, right? So the entire way we look at workplaces, of course, remote working, we always had it. For tech companies like us, it was not a new change. It is just the frequency in which we are adapted to those changes was a lot more. But the concept of work from home is going to become default and work from office is going to become an exception. With that being the case, the concept of what kind of workspaces you have, instead of one central facility, you're going to have multiple distributed facilities closer to home where people want to choose to go out of home and work in an office can do so in those smaller satellite offices. That's certainly something that I see as a trend, not just for my business, but in multiple businesses. But because work from home and has become the default, guess what? Even our customer base, even the procurement decisions that you make in B2B purchases, which traditionally used to be the meet and greet and sing and dance and wine and dine kind of business, where you go there, do multiple presentation, multiple talks, multiple dine outs and talks, and then finally we get into an order. Those behaviors are changing into, because guess what? They are working from home and part of the procurement decision is happening remotely. So larger deals are being closed by us remotely, which is a great thing for us. Traditionally, we had an enterprise business, which is direct sales, where it's all relationships and meet and greet, and the SMB business, over the phone business. But that line has now become blurred. It's just sales, it's product, a need, and communication through whatever channels is effective for us to build the trust and close the deal. So it's good for us because my average deal size that I was closing over the phone has significantly increased, not just within the country, but even abroad. We are now closing $6-figure deals without even meeting them over the phone, sitting somewhere in US. We got the government of Guyana that closed a deal, government of Guyana that was closed digitally over the phone, right? Which 2 years back, I would have not expected that to happen. So from a business standpoint, especially any tech business, which are into the model of inside sales and everything, they can actually start looking at enterprise kind of sales and business to the same model, which is actually a very positive sign. And especially the nature of business that we are in, the market itself is expanding in terms of number of digital initiatives and applications and total market. So it's pretty rosy for us in terms of our business. So I'm generally a positive person, but even though it's good for us, I understand that there is an undercurrent of a lot of negative things that is happening, but those negative things also brings out a lot of positive changes and adaptability as a whole at an individual level as well as a business level for people who are willing to embrace those changes in a positive manner.
See, I would say that, from at least from my experience, you have the best chance of solving a problem if you confront it, and you can't evade it. For the last 4 or 5 years, and if you take COVID out of the scenario, there are various organizations who've been looking and saying, digital is a powerful channel. I should be adopting digital. But what would that mean? That would mean that I disturb my existing workflows. So why should I do it? Why do I, fix something which is not broken? And then suddenly COVID hit us, and then everything broke, right? So rather than wait for this emergency to make us move, I think one has to be proactive, preemptive, and I would really encourage small and medium enterprises to take that first step of adopting digital. It is not as complicated as it seems, and it is that sphere in which companies like us operate. Our specialization is in understanding the needs of customers, small and medium enterprises primarily, and therefore companies like us are there to support you in your journey of adoption of digital. What is a fact is that more and more digital will take a predominant share in the business ecosystem, and without it, yes, in a stray case you could be successful. Without it, a small and medium enterprise would not be able to be successful. So two things: yes, confront your issues right now, and secondly, you will be pleasantly surprised that there is an ecosystem already around you of support which can help you adopt digital.
I think I remember, right? I think it was March 2020. We just had a big discussion with a new investor for a Series B round, right? We were almost very close, right? And this started happening. So initially, we always were in the mindset that this is a very short-lived thing. It can maybe end in 2 months, 3 months, right? Then everything will go back to normal. That was the hope, and that hope survived a bit longer, right? I mean, till June, July of that one, we always felt that this is about to end. Everything will be normal, and that's why we did not care to invest in processes which can make us more ready for the entire remote work. Right, we started investing in them after a while, right? So that created some kind of delay. But it's fine, right? I think that's where the entire market is. We are nothing unique. We were not like only one who were bad in prediction, right? But if you ask me to go back, we can be better prepared. We can definitely say this will stay for 2 years. So how do you plan long term for that? Be it our onboarding process, be it our sales process, be it our execution process, and things could have been done slightly earlier. But it's fine, right? I mean, it's something no one would have imagined. It's once in a lifetime thing that happened. So yeah, both like pros and cons were there.
Oh yeah, terrible times. In fact, we lost revenue immediately, right? And given the nature of the business, a lot of our customers, well, I mean, almost 100% of our customers are online businesses. And in India, particularly, we have half of our revenue coming from India. You saw a lot of these businesses come to a screeching halt, right? Because there was a lockdown across the nation, and most of these businesses came to zero in terms of their revenue, and the impact was directly on us. So yes, I think what it tells you is just be prepared. You cannot plan for these events. Very hard to plan for these events because you don't even know the magnitude of these, right? You can only plan for things that you can model, right? You can't even model these kind of things. Very tough. But I think the one thing that helps you fight all these better is the preparedness in the team. If generally your team is sort of mentally prepared, right, to cope with this, not only for the situations that this brings along, which is in our case, right, working remotely, doing everything remotely. Just the fact that you stay true to your mission, you stay true to the purpose of the company that you're building, things will fall in place. Some things may take longer than you anticipate, but the mental preparedness is a lot more important. Everything else is very hard to prepare for, right? Offices, etc., right? None of us knew how all of this will pan out. We've given up most of our offices. The HQ we continue to hold on to, and we'll see, how this will evolve. But those things are all sort of evolution, more than me saying that we knew or we were prepared. No, we were not. But what you can be prepared for is just mentally, within the team, to sort of put a brave foot forward and say, you're ready to face it, no matter what the challenge looks like. And collectively as a team, if you're ready, then none of this is hard.
I think very frankly, and I do reflect and think of it in how it has changed my own worldview as an individual and in my personal life. Very frankly, if I were to go back and talk to myself 2 years back, my basic message would be that, look, we are far more resilient than what we credit ourselves with. We are capable of dealing with really some very deep crisis and come out of it very strongly. So I think that is a confidence now I have, and I would give it to my 2 years early back. Two, I think every crisis has a silver lining, and I mean, there's no better demonstration of that has happened over last 12 months than any time in my career past. So, I think that mindset is very important, and thankfully we have seen that translating into outcomes this year. But more importantly, and I think that's, I mean, when we talk to my friends and family, it's something which a lot of us realize that, look, every day matters. You should continue to enjoy and live life every day. Do things which matter to you and you would like to do today rather than postponing it for tomorrow. Live more in the present. That's important. I mean, don't keep planning for future and waiting for one fine day when you'll have time and resources and flexibility to do things. Do what you can do today and live life for every day. So I think that's to me would be a message to myself, and that's how I look at it.
A good question, right? So nobody has seen this world or even expected COVID like situation, right? So the last we saw was in 1930s, where the pandemic has a larger impact on the world, and the generation has changed, right? So we were all shocked when we saw this spread was happening. Nobody has a clue at that point in time how it's going to impact your business, right? And everybody was preparing for the worst, right? So and it has while it has turned out to be positive for some of the businesses, but it has also turned out to be negative for many businesses who could not innovate very quickly or find a way and means to navigate through this situation, right? So for example, travel businesses or hotel businesses, right? So they got very adversely impacted. Being in a tech, we also didn't know how our customers are going to, I mean, in AgTech, how our customers are going to react to this. What is their impact? But we being in the enterprise business, it didn't hit us badly. And being in agriculture, you need food. So, we navigated through and still, and I accelerated, the pace in our growth in our business. But many businesses were not able to, right? Because nobody was taking a cab or nobody was sure about traveling at that point in time. So their businesses got impacted. Now, and we didn't expected the positive impact in our business. We could not see through this, right? So people were not able to come to the office. We didn't know how to manage the productivity. Everything converted into a meeting, and then we have to take a decision on meeting, and then all the people, and there are a lot of challenges on people who were staying in the PGs, right? So how they are going to deal with when everything was shutting down. And at the same time, we also had this discussion internally that we have to conserve cash because we didn't know how it's going to span out, right? So if your customers are not going to buy more, then you have to have a runway to navigate through the COVID. And we all took that conscious decision that we all took cut in our salaries. But one good thing Cropin did at that point of time to boost the morale of the company, that we gave everyone in the company the stocks, that while we are asking people to take a cut of 8% to 25% depending on what is your role and how much you are, what is your take home, but equivalent to that cut, we give the ESOPs to them, right? Which was quite a relief for our people. We didn't see a lot of attrition while the industry was going through some of the attritions, right? So I think we could have done better. If we would have known that we are not going to be impacted so badly, we would have not taken those calls. So we took a call to slash some of in our salaries. But the good part was that everybody got a chance to create a wealth for themselves in terms of ESOPs. And Cropin, in a recent past, 6 to 8 months back, we gave opportunity for all the ESOP holders to get an exit, secondary exit, right? So we did a 4.2 million exit for our employees and early investors. That was a good sign as well. So I think people also appreciated that. Not everybody in the company has a share, but now all the employees have the shares in the company. And I think we all navigated together. What we could have done differently, we could have waited a little bit more, which nobody know whether to wait or not. We were all being very conservative. But knowing this reality of the new reality of the world, I think we have to take our business calls and the gut into consideration. While I was very, very bullish in making an investment, but looking at how the discussions in the board and and what is happening around, where everybody was taking a conservative step, we also flew in that direction, which was not really needed, right? So I think as an entrepreneur, as a CEO and the leader, you have to make your own calls, and I think you have now enough data in front of you to navigate through any such situation in the future.
Yeah, so really three things here. Personally, I think I would tell myself to expect the situation to last much longer than I thought it will, and therefore must ramp up, digital infrastructure, capability creation faster at that time, right? Secondly, really expect the world to adapt faster than you think it can. The world really adapted very quickly. I think over a period of 4 to 6 weeks, people were kind of still making organizations work and delivering outcomes. Lastly, I would really tell myself to continue thinking long term. So continue to think long term, even as uncertainty looms around you, because those plans which are 5-year plans, 10-year plans still need to kind of stay rolling, and those are the ones which will give your brand and your business a competitive advantage over time.
Yeah, I think for me personally, there are two things that I've learned from this pandemic, right? One is obviously, as I talked about, resilience. Always hope for the best, even if the situations are not good at this day. By playing a long game, you should be able to come out of it. And the second most, or the most important, which I'm putting it second, is stay humble, right? I think however big you are, however small you are, I think pandemic taught us, it's a great equalizer, right? Just not talking about wealth, but personal losses, right? It's a great equalizer. So you've got to stay humble. You've got to be focused. You've got to be resilient, both at personal and professional level, so that you're not only able to navigate, but sit, assess situations, and answer accordingly.
No, I think one of the important thing there is, which we maybe willy-nilly take it lightly, is the health. We all, given that the action, the stress in our lives, and all of it, and suddenly and this pandemic had two things, right? I mean, it was more financial crisis, etc., but it was also to do with health, and and that is where the fear came from, that all of us had. And for me, the most humbling experience was during Delta wave, where I saw so many people, extended family, friends, office colleagues, going through so much, and many lost their lives, etc. as well, was very, very disturbing and a humbling experience. And the root cause of that perhaps was that I think the message was that in India, at some level, I'm not sure we are very careful about our health, right? And especially when there's so much that goes on. I think the learning would be just that's also equally important. I remember I was talking to one of our senior colleagues in the partnership, hotel partnerships, and she mentioned exactly that, and saying that maybe I need to be taking care of my health a little bit more. Maybe and she's actually pretty careful in saying even more, while I am just doing so much on the business side in any case, because that has to go on. But be even more sort of careful about health.
Yeah, I think you can't time everything, so don't wait for the perfect opportunity. There is a concatenation of circumstances. The government favors digital payments. The RBI has come up with enabling, regulations. They've started a fintech department. There's an RBI sandbox. There's an RBI innovation hub. Money is available for intelligent ideas. So whatever you plan to do tomorrow, today is a better time to do it. And there's never been a better time to be in India, fintech and payments. And I think there'll be 20, 30, 40 unicorns in the next 2-3 years' time. And forget about the valuation, forget about the unicorn, but just the market opportunity is so incredibly compelling that people are wanting to start up and are on the sideline. I'd say jump into the swimming pool. The water temperature is all right.
So I think the first thing I would say is focus more on reinforcing the positive messages to yourself. In fact, it is even more needed today to the 2-year older self of me than to the 2-year younger self of me, because the overdose of negative news and the negative narrative is what the entire media, the newspaper and hype is being built around. And it is going in that trend, right? So when those trends are happening, you as an individual have to go even more aggressive in the self-reinforcement of the positive messages. So I think while the media and the news consumption is built around negative news, in those negative news, you have to actually cherry pick and force yourself to see this amount of positive things that are happening. Like you have traditional self-obsessed stars now suddenly coming out, and you're seeing news of them going out and helping people and strangers to transfer from one place, people giving food to other people, right? So there's so many positive things that comes out, but they don't get amplified or exaggerated and blown out in news. So I think you as an individual have a choice to look at what you want. I think the self-reinforcement of positive messages is what I would keep reinforcing to the younger version of myself even more, and a lot more today than to my younger version because of the overdose of negative news. But further building on that, how do we reinforce the positivity, right? I mean, it is like focus what we can do as opposed to getting down with what is not in our hands.
So certainly I would be in a position to guard myself, my younger self, as to how to operate in this paradigm. But there is one thing that I would not do. I mean, apart from sort of guiding, saying that, one flexibility, adaptability plays a key role as much as technology does in coming out of environment that you haven't seen. But I would desist from laying a rule book or chart in front of my younger self. Why would I do that? Because I believe in the innate ability of human beings to work their way through challenges, right? I don't want to prescribe anything to anyone. For all you know, if this experience comes to me again, I would possibly charter a course which is better than the course that I've charted now. So I would believe in the ability of my younger self or anybody else younger who once, confronted with the same situation. While I will give him the necessary guidance and guardrails, I would trust his ability to come out of this with the flying colors.